start our local development forum, active senior citizens, the policy and citizen practice. Łukasz Dobruka, Tomasz Kaiser are here. This is in the framework of the bilateral cooperation between local governments of Poland, Polish, in Iceland and Norwegian local authorities. We want to share our experiences and improve our cooperation. The meeting is traditionally translated into the sign language. Here are our technical support. If you have any need, please contact them directly, especially for those who joined the first time our meeting. Please write down their phone number so that you can contact them directly during our meeting. It's over the 50th meeting that we have, but still there can be technical problems. It's worth noting down this phone number. It's a very urgent and current topic. What are the perspectives? What are the experiences? What can we talk about? What can you hear about? So first of all, we'll talk about the seniors. This is a demographical challenge, especially for cities. But of course, on the other hand, it's also a very misleading name and label, because there are different people, different needs, different expectations, and different potentials. So the local government have to diversify their activities. And today we would like to show you different examples. We will show, we'll start with the Norwegian partner. We will see how the local center that is senior-friendly activities, and then we will go to the Polish perspective. The Professor Piotr Błędowski will talk about it, and later on we'll pass to Poznań, Goleniów, and Gdańsk, different cities, different initiatives that are joined by one element. In all those places, you would meet people who are really passionate about everything they do. They're passionate about all their activities, and this is what you can really see, especially when you look at the whole range of activities directed to seniors. This is also the question of communication, reaching out to people, to entering a dialogue with their older residents. This is all just in a few minutes, but just to open the seminar, I would like to welcome everyone who will take part, our special guests, Kamil Wieder, the head of division, Department of Assistant Programs, Ministry of Development Funds and Regional Policy, and Andrzej Porawski, Executive Director of Association of Polish Cities. She's not today with us, but she's online. Elita Zakula, the head of the International Projects Department, Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities, OS. And yesterday we met each other in Norway. She lost her voice, unfortunately, so today she will be only chatting with us, so wish her a lot of health, of course. And we are happy that she still can be with us. But of course, we do understand that, unfortunately, we are not able to hear her today. Mr. Kamil Wieder, the head of division, take the floor. Thank you very much for introducing me. Thank you for organizing such a thing. Today we have the topic that has already appeared before when we're talking during our forums of local development. Until the 25th of January 24, we were happy to also take part on a similar forum and talking about the citizens, senior citizens. And it was seen that there are many diversified, not only interesting activities directed to seniors, but this is not only important, this is only also other cities, Hrubieszów, and actually most cities that are beneficiary to our programs during the realization of the local program implementation. Actually, it is quite natural because our society, as it has already been mentioned, is getting older. And everybody, each one of us will be old one day. So this is a topic that should be important even for the local authorities. And I'm very happy that today we can listen not only to the Polish experience, but also to our experiences of our partners from Norway, because according to those conversations that we have already had, we see that they face the same challenges, the same problems. They also would like to offer the best local services for seniors, but they would also like to activize them, to join them to younger generations. partners. This is why I'm very happy about today's meeting, and I hope that we will still have some opportunity to cooperate, maybe in the future, financed by the Norwegian grants. I hope it will happen in the very close future, and I hope that the conclusions and experience that we will be talking about today, we will be able to put into practice and activities in our local authorities. Thank you very much for the possibility of welcoming you. I wish you a very fruitful meeting, and see you next time during forums of local development. Thank you very much for welcoming us. And now I'd like to ask all the participants for a short introduction, and Andrzej Porawski, who will lead us into this meeting today. Welcome, everyone. I'm talking to you from the Association of Polish Cities. This seminar is very important due to the fact that due to those reasons that were already mentioned by Kamil Wieder, Tomasz Heiser, because the demographics is getting a topic in local governments, debates, works, when we talk about strategies for the future. The head has used the formulation, we are getting older. Of course, this process is due to the fact that we live longer. Women in Poland has already reached the European average of the lifespan, but men also are living longer and longer. But still, to reach this European average, there's still a little bit to get to that. But still, there are some other factors and circumstances not that optimistic, unfortunately. The relatively low exchange of generations. It's 1.4, the birth rate. The generation replacement is not that good, and we can see it even on the job market. Because when we take into consideration the traditional age of being professionally active, according to the future predictions of our statistic research, in the next decades, there will be over 500,000 people on the job market, which means 550,000 less people who will be in this productive age in comparison to people who would get retired, not even taking into consideration the migration. But this makes that not only there are different expectations, different circumstances, different local services, but it means also that the opportunity for elderly people to stay active longer in different ways. And now we are looking for those different forms of activity that we could offer them. But it is also a challenge to start, even if we like it or not, to start also the appropriate migration policy, which is already done by some of the cities. I wish you good meetings, a good conference. There are many plots, many topics, many factors to be taken into consideration, and I see it as one of the biggest challenges for local governments. Thank you very much. Thank you for this introduction. And so that we can start, as it has already been mentioned, the challenge is a very big one, and it touches many different areas of our local societies. We would like to start by looking at how it is done in Norway. What is the perspective of our friends and partners from Norway? We are meeting here Berit, Rafoss, the project manager at the Center of Age-Friendly Society, the Directorate of Health from Norway. And here, this project manager will show the topic related to the active aging, the active age-friendly society that would help the beneficial and easygoing aging. All the recordings will be available. According to what we have settled with our partner, this presentation will be, the slides will be only in English. Please take the floor.
Czy się słyszymy?
Can you hear us?
Did you get me started or introduce me, or I'm sorry, I don't understand Polish.
Tak, yes, we introduce you, so but please say a few words. You can change channel for translation on Zoom.
Okay, thank you so much, and good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be part of this meeting. Thank you for inviting me. I'm here to talk about age-friendly development in Norway, but I will start with the international overview. So the age-friendly work started with WHO. They started back in 2007. They gathered older people from different member countries, organizations, and researchers. And what they decided were which areas influence older people's quality of life. And these are the areas that they agreed upon. So that's the framework internationally for an age-friendly development. And as you can see, it's so much more than just health and social services that we normally tend to take everything that concerns older people into. It concerns a much wider range of sectors. The network has grown, and they have over 1,500 members and cover over 50 million people all around the world. There are Polish members, and in Poland, there has been a start of a national network as well. So just know that there is already great work going on in Poland in this area. Next slide. So what is an age-friendly society? Well, it's been defined as an inclusive and accessible society that enables active aging. And then we think about aging in the whole life course, and we also think about physical as well as social environments. Next. So in Norway, it really started with 2 cities joining the global network. Oslo and Trondheim joined the global network, and I worked for the city of Oslo then, and we lobbied and we went to different organizations, to the government, talking about this way of working across sectors and with older people in the center, having their say, giving their opinions. And it led to a national strategy, more years, more opportunity, and then a reform, a full life or your life. So 2 cities very much influenced national politics. So this was lifted up to national level. We now have a new reform, community and independence, live safely at home. And in all of this work, age-friendly is very much at the heart and focus of this. So it helps to have this national commitment to working with this. Next. So we are a center for an age-friendly Norway. So as part of this work, the government decided that we need a center who's going to have this as a focus and help cities and communities to work more age-friendly. So we are part of the National Directorate of Health, and we work with the cities and communities. We have a large national network, and we help the cities and communities to work more age-friendly. But we also work with business and organization in a partnership platform. And then we work with the individual. We have a campaign where we try and get everyone 55 plus to plan a bit better for their old age. We have a national council for an age-friendly Norway, and we work on a lot of different levels. Next. So basically, the main two levels is the individual. So we very much try and contribute to the fact that older people can take part, be included, have their say in everything that's going on. But then we also need to work at the systemic level so that we get the government, the local, the regional, the national government to work on this, as well as organizations and businesses. Next. These are the important questions. You know, if you're starting out with this, you need to think about how can we become an age-friendly society? How are we going to work together? And then also make it a bit personal. What kind of local environment would you like to grow in? And then where do you go from here? Next. So the national network now has 236 members, and that's out of 356. So we're almost up to 70% of the whole population. So we have a big network. We have the smallest community, but we also have the largest, and we're all over the country. Next. So what do we do in the network? We organize webinars on the different topics that the cities and communities are interested in. It can be housing, it can be transport, it can be activities, it can be outdoor areas, etc. We do national conferences. We also make sure that the cities and communities can come together and learn from each other, maybe visit each other. We do one-on-one counseling to the cities and communities so that we get their local needs and we can help them locally. We also work with them on research or development projects. I travel a lot, so I try and go to the different cities and communities, and I take part in meetings or conferences and help and support them. We also have developed different tools, handbooks, videos, lots of material that they can use. And we organize generation games with them. It's a great arena for getting old and young together in play and activity. Next. So these are our areas that we focus on. You saw the 8 areas in the start from the WHO. So we have sort of modified them a little bit into a Norwegian context. And we have taken health and social care out of the list. And that's only because we work very closely with this sector, but it's about getting all the other sectors involved. All the other sectors need to feel that aging and aging population is their responsibility as well. The people who work on the outdoor spaces and universal design, the people who work on housing and transport and all the different activities in the society, and how we also include older people in decision-making processes and the work that we do. Next. So we have created a national database of good examples because the awareness of an aging population that we need to do something is increasing. But then people want to know, well, what does it look like in real life? And at the center of Age Friendly is very much co-creation. So we've created a database of good examples so that you can see what this is in real life. And at the center, it's co-creation. And we think about co-creation both with older people, but also with people working within the cities and communities. So we try and make sure that there are different ways of older people getting together, getting to discuss what's important to them, what are the challenges, but also from their perspective, what are the opportunities? So we do mostly focus on that, getting the citizens involved and hearing what their insight is, knowing about their problems and their view of what the solutions might be. But it's also important to do some co-creation within the city administration, Because very often when you talk about aging and older people, it's just straight to health and social services. Well, that's your responsibility. And we sort of need to pull it back and say, no, this is a responsibility across sectors. So the photo at the right is from one city who was very creative in this approach of raising awareness across sectors. They invited people from all over the city administration, so people working on planning, on transport, on housing, outdoor areas, all the different areas. And we were together for a day. We talked about age-friendly, public health, how it all links to the strategic plans. But then they were tasked with going outside and experiencing the city with some of the functional changes that happens when you get older. For example, here, it's the stiffness of your joints. They were given glasses that simulate sight when you get older. We had walkers, we had wheelchairs, we had a lot of different things so that the people in the city really had to feel for themselves, what is it like to go out in our city? Can we use the benches that we have? Is it accessible? Do we have enough lighting, signs? What is it like to go around in our city when we get older? And they got a lot of surprises. I think they thought it was very accessible because they have had a great focus on universal design. But that's not enough because there are many things that happen with old age as well. So it was a very useful exercise in raising awareness of the needs of older people. So we need to involve across sectors. Next. So what can we do? How can we start? Well, one of the easiest ways to start to create an age-friendly society is benches. And why do I say this? I say this because when I started working on age-friendly 12 years ago, older people said to me, there are two things that are most important for us when we go out. Enough benches and access to toilets. Now, toilets is a bit trickier to put in place, but has to be done. But benches is what we call a low threshold initiative. Like everyone can put out some benches. But benches can be many things. It can be like you see on the left, where you have circulation pedals. It can be like in the middle, where you tell a story about the area you're in. And the last one, these are heated benches. She is sitting there reading. It's 8 o'clock at night at the end of January. It's freezing cold, but the benches are heated. And they use the surplus energy from the power company. So it's environmentally good as well. But the main thing is that we become aware that we need seating, more seating outside. So we have a lot of different good examples of that. Next. Next slide, please. Yes. So we focus also a lot on the outdoor areas. So what can we do to make outdoor areas more accessible? We need to think about benches, like I mentioned. We need to think about lighting. We need to think about access to toilets. We need to think about signage and general accessibility. And then it's important to think about both outdoor areas where you can be active, but also urban areas. And down at your left, you see a city that has a lot of industry in the middle of the city. And this was closed and not accessible to anyone for many years. But what they did was open it up because it's so close to the water. It's the best location in the city. And they opened it up. They put exercise machines for all generations. They put benches. They had better lighting. They had storytelling. They got the whole community, also businesses and the city administration, to contribute. They now have swimming clubs. They have walking tours. So it's about thinking about how can we make the cities and communities more accessible, both that they're accessible whatever abilities you have, but also that there are activities for everyone across generations. So we have many examples of what you can do, both in the more woods and forest, but also in urban areas. And it's all about making them more inclusive and accessible. Next. Now, transport is a big challenge. And it's a challenge both in the cities, but also in rural areas. In rural areas, there just isn't enough transport. In the city, you have a lot of transport, but it's not really accessible for older people. It's not really set up for the needs of older people. So what we're trying to do, and what the cities and communities are trying to do, is to create different age-friendly transport so that it's more accessible, that it caters to the need of older people. Maybe a bit more flexibility in time. Maybe they can pick you up where you live, help you with your groceries and stuff when you have to carry them inside. The drivers have a bit more training and knowledge in terms of older people. And that you can book your tickets, yes, electronically, but you can also call. Just making sure that in all these different aspects, it's more accessible for older people. And we see a lot of creativity. It's expensive with transport, so it's not easy. So you need to get different partners coming together, co-financing this, making it more accessible for older people, because it's so important. You can have so many great activities, but it doesn't help if you cannot get there. And there can be physical, social, cultural activities. Next. Housing. Housing is so important, and that really is what most of the cities and communities work the most on. And that is about creating housing options for everyone. Maybe they're more collectives, you live in a smaller unit, but you share public spaces inside and outside. Maybe you rent or you own. You can choose both according to your economy. We try and get insight and examples and development so that private and public can work together, so that it's more accessible and affordable. But this is a real challenge, and we need to work so hard on this in the years to come. Because in Norway, most houses are individual houses, and they're not very accessible when you have some functional disabilities that you may have in older age. So we need to try and shift and make people plan a bit more, to think about, where do I live now? Is this really where I can live when I get older? We try and have campaigns where we make older people aware, or not even older, but 55 plus. Okay, where do I live now? Is this where I want to live for the rest of my life? Should I make some changes? Should I make some adaptations in my house? Or is this okay? Something about just thinking about it earlier and then possibly making the changes before they're strictly necessary. So housing is a big priority for us. Of course, it takes a long time to develop good housing models, but we are starting to see more housing options. And it's really important that we try and change the existing houses so they become more accessible. But then it's also important to influence developers that are building new houses to make them more accessible. What do they need to think about? How can they make it more accessible and affordable? And so we talk to older people a lot. What would you like? What's important to you? Is it about the accessibility inside? Is it about the outdoor environment? Is it about the closeness to different services and transport? And of course, it's all those things. So as much as we can, we need to think closely about where we have housing so that it is close to transport and activities. Next. So we have a national network we work closely with. We also have regional networks so that they can work more locally. We have a Nordic network, which is Nordic cities and communities coming together to work. And then we have a global network. And this is where I've met Polish colleagues in the past. I was in Krakow for the startup of a national network there. And we try in the global network to share and learn from each other. There's a big global database of good examples of age-friendly initiatives, and we also try and learn and support each other. Next. So I talked about co-creation really being at the heart. What does that mean? Well, in order to have the best local solutions, we need to include people locally, because one solution in one city may not be the best for the next city. So you need to involve the citizens so that they get their say as to what's the most important thing for them. When I started working on the age-friendly development in Oslo, I invited older people to conferences, to meetings, to walkabouts in the city. And the one thing that was at the top of their priority was transport, transport, transport. That was the biggest challenge. But you only learn about the biggest challenges or the different challenges by inviting them in. So you can do it in town hall meetings, you know, the big meetings, or you can have conferences, or you can have smaller meetings with different topics, or you can go outside and experience. What does it look like? What is it like to go around in the city? And it's a really good thing then to do it, older people and people working for the city together. Then we can do more outreach, you know, go where people are, to the shopping center or the local community center, try and meet them where they are. A lot of cities and communities, they start maybe with a questionnaire so that we send it out digitally just to get a feeling for and a start for what are the different challenges and maybe opportunities. But then we also need to meet physically and talk about this. Next. So age-friendly, of course, has to compete with so many other priorities. There is no doubt for Norway, the aging population is one of our biggest societal changes and challenges, but it's also an opportunity. Let's not forget that. It's a great success for all of us that we have aging populations, that we have managed to get more years. But we have to try and link it as much as we can to different government policies, like digitalization, like sustainable. And we also need to make it so that we can survive changes of government. And linking it, especially to the sustainable development, helps us have a long-term goal and plan for this. Next. So I said we developed tools. So we've developed some tools for the cities and communities. It's a very practical guide. We say something about the challenges, we provide some solutions, good examples, and checklists. And this is something that I did when I worked for CORS, the organization that Elita and you are now part of as well. We developed this handbook, and it's in English as well if you want to have a look at it. So it's full of examples, it's very practical, and it helps the cities and communities. Next. We invited the architects to also look at this. How can they really integrate this into their work? And they also created a handbook that complements the other and has a more overview of a societal development with an age-friendly perspective. Next. Then we also saw, especially after the pandemic, that outdoor areas and meeting places is really one of the things that we need to do more with. We need to work more on this, get more example and knowledge. So we tried and gathered different examples from all around the country of outdoor activities and spaces. And the red sort of thread, the common thing in all of this is co-creation. These projects, these initiatives came to be through co-creation, through the local citizens saying, we would like this, we can help organize this or plan and develop this. So this is now a guide. We also have this in English with a lot of good examples on outdoor spaces and activities. Next. My last slide is just to emphasize that since we are now an aging population, it will be a lot of pressure in the future on the health and care services. And we won't have enough healthcare personnel. That goes for Norway, that goes for Poland, that goes for everyone. So that's why it's so important to invest in age-friendly development, because this is prevention. And this is so important to try and then reduce the need for and the cost of health and care services. And it's very much part of the sustainable development work. And although you have older people in the center because of the demographic, this benefits everyone. It's good for all ages. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. I think if we still have the discussion on chat, so if there are any questions, I ask all participants to use chat on Zoom and ask questions. Ja bardzo dziękuję za bardzo przekrojową prezentację.
Thank you for this, your presentation, which was the key word was co-creation. The senior policy is not policy created just by administration, by the local authorities. These are activities co-created by many partners responsible for what happens in their neighborhood. And now, from this Norwegian perspective, we are coming to the Polish perspective. So, first of all, I'd like to invite you to listen to Professor Piotr Błędowski, the Dean of Collegium of Socio-Economics in Warsaw School of Economics, and among many other functions. What I would like to underline is the fact he's the deputy mayor of deputy responsible for senior policy. We would like to ask him to share his knowledge and experience from a broader perspective related to the senior policy. Unfortunately, he couldn't come directly to our meeting because he had some other duties at the same time, but he recorded his presentation that we would like to listen to now. Good morning, everyone. I very much regret that I cannot attend your meeting in person, but at the same time, I have other commitments that I have to fulfill. So my participation is of a remote nature. I would like to take advantage of this meeting to say a few words about the tasks and challenges faced by the local governments with regard to the elderly population, and more broadly with regard to senior citizens policy, which we have been implementing in Poland for several years now. Well, if we are talking about aging, old age, and policies addressed to elderly residents, Poland is no exception, because in other European countries we have a similar situation, and therefore I hope that some of my comments could be treated in a more universal way. On this slide, you can see some really basic information about aging, how the process of aging in Norway and in Poland. As you can see, Poland is in a less favorable situation. Both the median age is higher than in Norway, and there is also a higher percentage of people over 65 years of age. Is the age we consider as the limit of being old. What is also less favorable is the ratio of old age dependency, while what is very beneficial, the young age dependency ratio is more favorable in Norway. And it is a kind of perspective for Norway, because some of the problems that in Poland are more visible, in Norway they are not and will not. I haven't put on the ratio on this board this data, but it needs to be mentioned. I think it's worth mentioning. If we look at Poland and Norway, Norway is a country which is at a much higher level of development, as all indicators of social development, as well as all economic indicators, for example, GDP, show that Norway is a country which we should follow. Here there is one more element that needs to be emphasized. Social policy, and in fact public policy in general, needs to be implemented and carried out under democratic conditions. Here we in Poland, we have been dealing with democracy on a day-to-day basis for only 30 years, whereas the democratic traditions of a constitutional monarchy such as Norway are much older. And this is certainly a factor which is helpful in senior citizen policy. But everything is ahead of us. And regarding to that, it is important to look first and foremost at how old age is shaping us as a phase of life and what it brings with it for local government policy. I would also like to make one more reservation. When we talk about senior citizens policy, we are of course talking about a policy that is implemented nationwide, and it is the responsibility of national and central bodies. But the place where senior citizens policy is primarily implemented is the local community. The role of these communities is enormous. And at the same time, there are huge expectations of local authorities, expectations that are not always easy to be met, and about which I would like to say a few words in the final part of our meeting. But the situation is that never in the history of mankind have we seen such a rapid and sustained increase in the number of elderly people in society. The sheer number is one thing, but growth is also the proportion of elderly people, and this has all sorts of consequences, because a relatively greater proportion of the activities and resources of public policies, including senior citizens policy, are and will in the future have to be devoted to various activities aimed at elderly citizens. As I said, the number of senior citizens is increasing, and they are, in fact, living longer. Actually, they live longer. And this is good news on the one hand, but it is also fortunate on the other hand that as the number of older people increases and the period in which they are the addressees and subjects of senior citizenship increases, we are faced, they are both subjects and addressees of this senior policy, we are faced with ever greater challenges.
Przepraszam Państwa za te odgłosy, ale akurat...
Sorry for the noise, but I got some messages. I would also like to point out one more thing. Today it's becoming more and more difficult to say who is an elderly person. If we are talking about the boundaries of old age, then the only second boundary is clear and precise, although it is not all located in time. Clearly and precisely defined. Is it the calendar age or is it the social role age? In the past, they were linked to the respective stages of life, but they are subject to change. And today, a 60-year-old man can act both as a young father and as a young grandfather. So it is also becoming increasingly difficult for us to define the addressees of this policy, hence our attempt to stick to the calendar age. And we will stick to the age. And it would be a very good thing in this context to look at those features of old age which are characteristic and of common to all societies, actually. I will try to list the four most relevant ones. The first one, feminization, so an increase in the proportion of women among elderly people, singularization, an increase in the proportion of people who run their households alone. It is just one-person household. The increasing proportion of the oldest among the old, we call it the fourth age, so really, really old, especially people over 80 plus. And finally, something which is not common, but which we have to reckon with in the future, namely, an increase in the risk of poverty in old age. And first of all, women are particularly at risk. It will primarily affect them as a result of the very shortcomings of the pension system we have to deal with. This feminization is a process which is common in Poland. It could be said that on average, there are 2 ladies for every one older male person. So it's 2 to 1. And among people aged 100 years and plus, of whom there are over 7,400, 1,900 are men and the rest are ladies. So as we moved up the age groups, the proportion of women increases significantly. As far as singularization is concerned, you know this term single, this label. It is a person who runs a one-person household, who lives alone. And it is assumed, maybe rightly or wrongly, I don't know, it is a different matter that singles, age 30 or 40, they are single by their own choice. But if we take a look at the statistical data, it turns out that almost 60% of singles or single-person households in Poland are run by people in their 60s and above. It is not a matter of choice. It is simply a result of life events that lead to the fact that there are more and more singles among the elderly. And this is caused by the death of the husband, partner, more rarely by the wife, that children have already left their house, their nest in which they grew up, that neighbors, friends, siblings, and family members are leaving more and more quickly, and the person becomes more and more lonely. This is a process that involves, among other things, the fact that it is becoming increasingly difficult to count on support from the family. And if there are more elderly people, I will come back to this in a moment, then it turns out that the family which is available, which can provide various types of support, depending on the elderly person's level of dependency, is in an increasingly difficult situation because there are not just 1 or 2, but more elderly people in the family. And on top of this, the material problems, financial problems are getting worse. The structure of households is changing. The number of multi-person households is decreasing, but the number of multi-generational families is increasing. Only that these families are scattered. The traditional expectation that is that the family who takes care over the elderly loses its raison d'être at this point, because the family is increasingly scattered across the country or even beyond the boundaries, and its role as a carer is diminished. Here, I would like to emphasize, particularly from the point of view of our Polish conditions, because in our country, it has been accepted practice for many years that the presence of the family is a kind of alibi for public authorities not to get involved specifically in organizing care for the elderly. Time when this alibi could be used is already gone, and now at every level of public administration, be it local or central, we have to take into account the fact that this will be a public task, and this requires various measures. Among other things, changes in education, in preparation for getting older, for the old age. Because today, we most often treat older people no longer as producers, but as consumers, forgetting that these older people, thanks to their activity, their social capital, which is knowledge, social contacts, human capital, which is their education, it is their knowledge and experience. They are a very valuable resource that we cannot afford not to use. So we have a senior citizens policy, a policy that is organized at various levels. In Poland, for the first time, we have a lady minister for senior citizenship policy, although let us emphasize that we do not have a separate ministry, but a department for senior citizenship policy. I don't know if we can say it's only a department, but this is still very important. We're missing the final step of appreciating the tasks of the public administration towards the elderly. All the more so as we are not talking about one set of tasks, because, as I said at the beginning, the fact that there are more and more elderly people and that they live longer and longer is also a natural consequence of this process, namely internal differentiation. We have representatives of the older generations who are very active. We have, for example, those who are withdrawn or those who want to withdraw or have to withdraw. We have people who are independent and also those who are less independent, they need more support. We have more and more people at risk of loneliness and more people with depression. And these people need our special attention. And the research that is carried out in Poland under the slogan Pol Senior, we had a large, tour-wide, nationwide representative research on seniors. They show that the turning point, the seizure for senior citizen policy, is the age of 80, when these factors, the changes I have mentioned earlier, become more acute. And therefore, it seems that we should start to speak clearly about the need for a senior citizen policy that takes into account two fundamentally different needs of seniors. There are completely different groups of needs. I would like to point out that I'm not talking about two groups of elderly people, but rather two groups of needs, because it is not the case that once someone has reached the age of 80, he or she starts to withdraw, falls ill, or needs support. Such support is sometimes needed for younger people as well. But it is also not the case that such a decline in activity occurs in all areas of life for older people. Therefore, this gap between needs and people seem to be important. All the more so as in recent years, the expectations of senior citizenship policy seem to have risen sharply, because little was said about it before, and we need to think about how to change the situation, being aware that the old age is the result of everything we have experienced at an early age. Senior citizenship policy is not able to compensate for certain lacks that emerged earlier. And it is not able to prevent the various consequences of what started earlier, disease, process of changes in social life. And it is not the case that we can start this senior citizen policy at a point common to all elder people. We therefore have a need for significant differentiation, and we have to realize that among these tasks, we have the task of activating older people, activating for the creation of volunteering. In Western and Northern Europe, there is a predominance of older people among volunteers. In Poland, the situation is completely different. Namely, younger people prevail. This will probably change in some time, but it is necessary to create conditions for those older people who not suspend their lives from the family and who can be very useful to the local community. They do not depend on their families. We have the problem of dependency, of course, which requires a completely separate issue. And I don't want to go into detail here. We have problems for social assistance, social welfare, whose budget is mainly burdened by local government, and it looks as if in the future, older people will use this assistance more often than at the present. We have problems with the shrinking of cities, which is a process that is causing many younger people to leave cities as a place to work rather than to live, while older people remain in these cities. And this, in turn, requires some changes. A rethinking of the various city paradigms, a move towards a concept of a different city, which is friendly to all age groups. We need to be aware that we are facing a process of deinstitutionalization. This process is difficult to define, and secondly, it is a very costly process that will need to be spread over time, mainly because before we start this deinstitutionalization, we need to create a huge market of services, including social services. I would also like to mention a certain risk, which I refer to as the risk of gerontologization. Ladies and gentlemen, the proportion of older people in our local communities will increase, and this will translate into an increasing proportion of the electorate, of their votes. And even though I myself am a gerontologist, I see a significant danger in creating various conflicts between younger residents, especially those representing younger and more developmental families, and the elderly, and in a subordinating public policy to the needs of the elderly with a view to pleasing them, and also in this way gaining acceptance later in the form of votes. Meanwhile, we are currently faced with an extremely difficult task. I spoke only of the needs of older people, but what is perhaps the most important task is to balance the needs of the older and younger people, whose numbers must also be increasing, so that we can speak of an even development of our local communities, in which the needs of older people are very important. But I do not believe that they can be treated as more important than any other's needs. This task of creating a certain balance and ensuring its sustainability is certainly something that will oblige us in the coming years. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this very interesting lecture by Professor Błędowski, who, as a deputy chairman of the Senior Policy Council, has this broader perspective of the current tendencies and challenges. Especially in this final part, we had an opportunity to have a look on the challenges with regard to demography. The growing percentage of seniors in our society, in our daily life, is certainly going to be a problem. We also heard from our friends from Norway, by Ms. Rafoss, and now repeated by Professor Błędowski, the co-creation. I think it's impossible to speak of shaping good senior policies without their own participation, without the participation of those who are the addressees. So we should give the voice to those who are behind the practice. In Poland and Norway, we have Ms. Magdalena Pietrusik-Adamska, Director of the Department of Health and Social Services in the Poznań City Hall. Ms. Magdalena, please come to us. And let's listen how these things are done in Poznań. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's a great honor to participate in today's forum. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it was very good for me to hear the lecture by our friend from Norway, because Poznań also draws on from the inspirations from Norway. We use the same handbook. We have not been part of this network as long as Norwegian cities, but since 2016. And within the framework of these good practices that I hope to show you, I also want to connect it to the ways how we create senior policy and how it is related. Excuse me, some technical problems. And how it is connected to the solutions that are introduced. Of course, what is of key importance is what has already been said by Mr. Director Porawski and Professor Błędowski. The key is demographics, not only what is happening in Poznań right now, where we have this ratio of senior members, which is not only typical for Polish and Norwegian cities, but the whole Europe. And this tendency, despite different actions, different initiatives in the field of demographics, we were not able to overturn. So this is the role of the whole European society, not only ours, to create such living conditions to make them possible, to make them prepared for a different age structure of the residents. Senior citizen policy, this is our practice, what Łukasz also has mentioned, is a policy that may not be created top-down from the perspective of public administration only. It regards different aspects, different areas of life, not only with regard to senior citizens, but also their caretakers. So we created all this through our Senior Citizen Council, both working with representatives of the administration, NGOs active in the field, formal or informal caretakers, but also city councillors from Poznań. These people, all these categories are engaged in a regular evaluation of our senior citizen policy. I'll speak about it more in detail soon. Accessibility of public space. It has also been mentioned by, described from Norwegian perspective. I'd like to share a bit how universal design has been in the last couple of years a part of the Poznań policies. After the new Act of Parliament was introduced in the field, we have strengthened our accessibility audits in all units of local government organization administration, and all the modernization renovation works have to take into account the conclusions from these audits and to provide for the needs with regard to accessibility. Last year, together with the NGO chosen by way of a competition, we created the Poznań Center for Accessibility. We agreed that in order to require, we have to provide the data. We have to play this counseling role for both public and non-public institutions. So this center provides free of charge support counseling with regard to accessibility. Public space is a key of key importance, but of course it also comes down to detail. For example, we as Poznań, we can boast having the highest number of comforters, changing tables. We've been acting in this program throughout the last 3 years within the action of changing helping people with who are unable to provide for their own hygienic needs. We provide these places in public toilets, public institutions. It's a small thing, apparently, but it helps to maintain the dignity of people who are touched by these problems. Transport is yet another area. Here we pay attention not only to being excluded, especially with regard to problems with physical movement, so the transport has to be adapted to the needs of people with certain limitations in this respect. It has to take into account economic exclusion, but also it has to be safe and provide the right, let's say, culture and dignity. So within our policy in transports, we guarantee our seniors a yearly ticket for the price of 90 zlotys. The standard ticket, just to compare, would be 10 to 12 times higher. So our bus and tram stock for the last 20 years has been adapted to the needs of people with special needs. Right now, we can say that 100% of the buses and trams have low floors. Trams, 90% of trams, 100% of buses are already adapted to the needs of people with disabilities. Public transport, with regard to social campaigns in the Poznań public transport, there are many campaigns dedicated to the safety of seniors, how to take care of their own property, but also the culture. We should have the right manners with regard to the elderly, but also to different situations that are dedicated to the needs of the elderly, the senior citizens. Housing policy in many ways also adapts to the needs of the elderly, the people who might be economically excluded, who meet the criteria of finding a housing apartment agreement with meeting when they have to meet the formal requirements, but they cannot participate financially. The city also supports them financially. There are subsidies. Also, within the framework of the communal public housing, we also renovate, modernize the apartments that are larger than 80 square meters, changing them into smaller ones, single rooms, studios with the kitchen infrastructure, and the whole infrastructure generally of the flats for seniors is always located at the ground floor or the first floor. Of course, speaking of buildings without a lift. New infrastructure that is planned provides for the possibility to organize senior clubs, intergenerational clubs, so that the people who remain there are able to enjoy a good life as long as possible in these places. We also have the Center of Social Senior Initiatives as a part of our administration. That is a city unit that helps the communication supporting active seniors. Within the activities of the center, we organize each year the Senior Resident Month in October. This is the month where the Senior Resident Council, City Council, symbolically keeps the keys to the city. We dedicate a number of events, for example, Viva Senior Club fairs. They are organized by the local Social Policy Center and the Center of Senior Initiatives. It is a two-day event with cultural elements, with the offer by many different entities where each senior resident may find something for himself or herself and find different forms of activity for the forthcoming months. We also create centers of intergenerational communication. We have 3 centers like this so far in Poznań, but we also commission these social initiatives, around 30 of them, to other entities, mostly to the NGOs, which are becoming more active in including and activizing the seniors. Healthy senior, happy senior is the one that can take care of his or her health, but also social relations, maintaining the relations with other people from the same generation. An important thing here is many sports events. We have lots, probably more than 100 outdoor gyms, which the seniors can use during the daylight. We have a large-scale program, the Senior Coach. Over 5,000 senior citizens are using, and the entry costs a number, just a few dozen zlotys per year. Senior citizens can be active in athletics, Nordic walking, swimming, other forms of sports, other activities, taken care of by well-prepared coaches. And those who are more developed, more engaged physically, can even participate in senior sports competitions, Spartakiada, organized by our centers, municipal sports and recreation centers. We have many seniors engaged in culture. Some of them create, together with the Center for Senior Initiatives, the Silver Neighborhood. This is a place where people can share their opinions, information with regard to culture. We also organize, together with the cultural initiatives, the senior citizen clubs at those venues devoted to different topics. But to those who want to be more active socially, for them, we've already had 2 editions of the action that Senior Cuddles the Baby, which is organized by the NGO in collaboration with our city hospital, where the senior citizens, after the necessary training and, of course, psychological analysis, help to take care of the newborn babies that cannot be taken care of by their parents. We have prevention programs, which are all available during city events and which are often attended by many seniors. As I said before, we have the first senior resident council. We had it in 2007. These are senior residents of the city who are elected, and the elections are co-organized by the city and the NGOs that are active in the field. Our council is now 17 years old. This is yet another term of the council, and the council provides new ideas, new initiatives. That's one function, but also all the other initiatives that we provide, we create, are counseled, discussed with the council as well. What we have been working on for many years is something that still needs to be polished, is the communication measures for senior citizens. We're doing our best to have a multi-channel communication with the seniors. There are many people who are 60 plus. We have different groups of people which are active in different forms. So for some, the paper form of communication would be better. For the others, the digital one would be fine. So we try to maintain different channels of communication over the internet. We have portals in social media, some of them dedicated by the Center of Senior Initiatives, by the Poznań portal, and the city administration itself. So the seniors who are more engaged digitally, more active digitally, can also use our app, our smart city app, and the Senior Poznań is a publishing house that is provided by the Poznań publishing house, providing books in larger print for the seniors. Under our senior policy program, we have decided, together with the Senior Resident Council since 2016, a series of social services that support the activity and the staying of seniors in their environment. The handyman program, which is free of charge, help with regard to basic technical works, changing bulbs, repairing leaking taps, these kind of things that make the life of the seniors easier, more comfortable on a daily basis. And the city ensures that these senior citizens can function normally in their houses. A couple of times a year, we finance transport services of the seniors by taxi to visit public institutions, health centers, to the cemeteries. They can also participate in the program Book for the Senior. And here, thanks to the Raczyński library, which keeps buying things, books, publications with larger print, which are more senior-friendly. A Book for the Senior is also a program which enables providing the seniors not only books, but also audiobooks and other forms from other publications. Podological services, for example, providing the growing in nails, but it also helps to maintain good health and even life of people who cannot do it themselves. Free of charge, we also provide the rental of rehabilitation equipment. Seniors, so to speak, who do not have any caretakers. For example, they are provided with the help to clean the windows, to be transported to cemeteries, clean the graves of their close ones. We also look into the future, what within the scope of the funds that will be available to us in the new perspective, what can be adapted or to which extent, so that certain activities are simplified. Right now, we have a very particular demographic situation. We're facing a very significant loss of this caretaking potential, the loss of health in our society. That's why we definitely need the new technologies to be introduced, and this will be our focus in the future. Thank you.
When we're talking to the head of from the city hall, when we're talking about the time, that was one of our main topic, and we see how diversified is the offer of Poznań. And among those activities that are offered is the communication and dialogue in treating process, because we underline the co-creation. And the good communication is the key to good co-creation. And when it comes to this group, it turns out that they have some special needs. They have their own particularities. So thank you very much for your presentation. And when we look at good practices, look for good practices in Poland, we also look at Goleniów. It's a town, it's a city that is known, famous for interesting and extraordinary solutions. Zbigniew Łukaszewski is here with us, and he will talk about the experience. He's the director of a social services center in Goleniów. We can see you on the screen. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. Welcome, everyone. I'm trying to share my presentation with you.
Chciałbym uzyskać potwierdzenie, czy
I'd like to get some feedback. Can you see it? Yes? Okay.
Dziękuję bardzo. Szanowni Państwo,
so, ladies and gentlemen, I am the head of the Social Services Center in Goleniów. In Goleniów, we have 36,000 residents. It's a partly city, town and municipality. We are not very far from Świnoujście. We have our, it's a rural urban place. It's a crossroad of two main roads in Poland that are, we have a very fast developing industrial area here. So this is the characteristics of Goleniów, just in a few words. But when it comes to senior citizen policy in our municipality, at the moment it is based on social services offers that are addressed to everyone in Goleniów, but the seniors have a special place in that program. Before that, we used to have a program, a document that was the current one, the senior citizen policy in Goleniów, and most of the previous program elements are implemented in the new one as well. I would like to say briefly go through the areas that we cover with this document in our senior citizens policy. But before I do that, I have to say, and I have the great pleasure of saying that we have always been inspired by Gdańsk and Poznań. Chapeau bas to all your initiatives, and I'm very grateful for inviting our study groups, for sharing your knowledge, your experience. It's a very important part for us. And I think that lots of initiatives that you will see in a moment that we carry out in Goleniów, they are actually, they have their origin, their inspiration in Gdańsk or Poznań. Support for senior citizens organizations, the program of health and prevention, social and care support, activization in social and cultural level, education infrastructure friendly to senior citizens, vocational activation, and social dialogue. These are the areas that I would like to cover briefly. When it comes to the support for senior citizens organizations that we have about 14 to 18, depending how to count in our municipality. They are offered special competitions within the frame of the tasks of local government in Goleniów, and these competitions they are meant to make the offer wider in the area of sport and culture. I can say that among the people who are the most active, it is 600 active seniors. But the city of Goleniów, for us, it's a big part of our citizens, and without the volunteers, the seniors, most of the events in our city wouldn't take place. We practice such a solution of our own that consists of organizing special common rooms for seniors. We have 5 daycare centers. They are a bit different from classical senior clubs because the city finances the place and the leader of such a place, but the rest, the whole life that is buzzing in this day center, such as meals and activities, are financed and organized by NGOs, especially those related to the seniors. But when we have those daycare centers, they are open to anyone. There are no criteria depending on finances of a person, on the finances of the person. The seniors are very active. They organize their own time within their teams and clubs. The main spot where they meet, the headquarters, is the center of local initiatives, and over there, among 20 groups and NGOs and informal groups that participate in those activities in this place. There are some organizations that are dedicated to seniors, and thanks to that, it's easier to keep in touch with them, to coordinate some of our works. Within the promoting health through preventing examination, the health program and prevention, we make it through preventive examinations, medical consultation, and healthy lifestyle campaigns. And I have to mention here about the remote care that concerns 63 people. And within the social services program, we have, for example, an offer of a dietist who not only supports individually elderly people, but also educate and organizes group meetings if there is such a need about healthy lifestyle. When we continue with the health programs and prevention, we also have the Goleniów Life envelope. It is promoted during different festivals through our community nurses. At the moment, we have over 4,000 of those envelopes that are in the seniors' fridges. They are, of course, labeled in a special way so that the medical rescue, when they come, they know where to look for the information. They are already educated. The basic information about the very elderly person living in this flat where you can find the envelope. Psychological support. Well, here we have to say that it is quite popular for both individual and group support. Please imagine the situation in which elderly people that used to be very active in their life, they stay alone in a big house. And the children move out. Then we have this empty nest syndrome and problems related to some maybe conflicts within the family. Some seniors cannot really deal with the attitude, how to approach growing up their grandchildren, some different relationships with the in-laws, for example, with the daughter-in-law or son-in-law. So this is all the topic for our workshops that we provide. And I have to say that we are really satisfied that the seniors do use those workshops, especially from rural areas. The Integration Club is a place where there are people with disabilities, with some memory deficiencies. We see that people who are in crisis can also come in psychological crisis. This is a place that is led by an NGO. We have 20 places there. Social and care support. Social and care assistance, like in every of those institutions, includes subsidizing medication, financing financial help, support. We have 70 to 80 people every year who use our caring support, but we have also some special services who are in a particular difficult financial situation, when we know that even though the wages are not very high and they are made by the city council, and we know that some people cannot afford them. So we have a special group of people. So we dedicate such an offer, a special caretaker of an elderly or a person with disability. They get this personal help. And what I would like to underline, these services are dedicated to people who are in a really and particularly difficult situation. Caritas is the charity organization that helps us providing this service.
Realizujemy również działania w ramach opieki
We also
wytchnieniowej.
have this respite care program.
Jest to
Every year,
około 15 osób,
it's about 50 people
osób
that we can
starszych.
help elderly
Usługi
people.
dla seniorów i osób z
And services for senior citizens and people with disabilities through our social institution are the basic daily living services like beauty services, massage, the hairdressers. Imagine a situation when someone for half a year or a year stays in bed, cannot stand up, is seriously sick. This person has the right to some dignity. And within this area, we try to support such a person. We come. We have also to cover some rural areas. It's sometimes 30 to 40 kilometers to travel. And then the workers of our social institution, social welfare, they come, they wash their heads, they cut the nails, etc. They do all those beauty services. More often, people who want to take advantage on those services, they prefer the massage. We talk about relaxing massage, but actually have examples when this massage, when it's properly done by a professional person, creates miracles, because how can you otherwise call a situation when a lady, 80-year-old lady that cannot stand up and lives on the first floor of her house, after a whole series of the massages, she can stand up, she goes down and she starts using, for example, the toilet on her own. For us, it was a big event. The neighborhood help,
obejmujemy ją około 30 osób rocznie.
We help about 30 people a year, and this is our first step before we enter to the caretaking services, because this neighborhood help is a bit different, as the neighbors who usually help people, they do not do any hygienic services, but they can help with shopping, they can accompany someone, they can spend time, they can go for a walk. This is what is covered by those people. And what is very important for us is that the person who carries out these services is being chosen, preferably by the older person. So if there is an older person coming and wants to take advantage on this neighborhood help, he or she will point out who is the person that he or she trusts, who is supposed to be the best person to provide these services. Social and cultural activization, that's another area. And I think this is one of the most intense of the areas. I remember that after the pandemic, the meetings with senior groups, when I heard, actually, I'm sorry, I can't meet because we have a 1 or 2 day travel. Another club says, yes, we want to, but we are going for a trip for 3 days. Another organization says, yes, we would like to join, but unfortunately we are leaving as well. And we're leaving for 1 week. So it turned out that we could not book any coach for the needs of our youth or other activities, because all the coaches were already booked by the seniors. Today, the situation has already calmed a bit, but the concerts, some exhibitions, meetings with the authors, trips, this is all that the seniors organize within their groups. And we see that there is a process of opening of those groups towards other residents of our city. And it starts to be much more, we get information that we invite. We have a few, for example, places left in the coach, 5 to 10 people. You can join, the price is not high, so they're open to other people as well. And all the activity through art is very important. The Goleniów Senior Activation Fund is also an initiative worth mentioning. From 2018 to 2024, we have carried out 300 initiatives. Over 4,000 people took part. including over 3,000 seniors. We have been inspired here by the solutions from Gdańsk. So once again, a big thank you. We adapted it to our conditions and circumstances and needs. So we finance 500 zlotys the initiatives, mainly between generations and addressed to people who are at risk of being excluded, homeless people, people with disabilities. There are really, really various initiatives, but for sure there are a little bit of fresh blood that comes and starts new initiatives. And this is implemented by informal group. At least 5 people have to get together. If they're over 60, they can apply for this financing. The community service, 200 years. It's for the addressees or older people who feel lonely. The problem with older people is that very often, even though we have an offer, even we try to reach out in very different kinds of activities, very often they do not decide to take part in any of it. And it goes through different channels, this communication, but still, this community service, 200 years, is to appreciate those people for what they have done in the past, with the support of the neighbors, colleagues, friends. We organize a party, a modest birthday party, a birthday cake, some flowers. It's not very expensive, but still it makes miracles. It's like giving a special additional energy to this person. Here is an ex-teacher from primary school, from preschool, that took part. After we saw that an elderly lady that she said that she had no power to go anywhere, and the meeting was supposed to take only 2 hours, but they spent 4 hours. And after weeks, she was able to come back on her own feet. She did not meet anyone, any doctors, which was very surprising because in the past it was a completely different person. And then actually she thought that when she's over 80, it is the moment that she can metaphorically get retired, because when, for example, she retired when she was over 60, she didn't feel appreciated by the local government, and now she said that finally she feels that her work made sense and that people appreciated her job. Another service, community service, is a friendly phone call, which means that seniors call other seniors according to the needs, but also once a month or every 1 month and a half, there is this direct contact, maybe a common coffee, to have a piece of cake together. We tried it once to base this community service on volunteers and some social students, but it was too difficult with the barrier of the age. One of the older lady, when we were evaluation, how much can I talk about a famous series, Polish series, with her? We have no common experience, and it turned out that the younger were not maybe well prepared for such conversations with the elderly. So today, this volunteer senior center, they carry out this community service, and this is where we recruit the people to visit others. Volunteering and intergenerational programs. As I have mentioned, the volunteers among the seniors in Goleniów, we have the senior volunteer center, about 2,500 hours per year of work for their local community, not only their team or club, but for the
podmiotów
whole,
zewnętrznych. To są akcje w
for a
przedszkolach,
lot of
mieliśmy
external bodies, like
czy
kindergartens,
też
schools,
współorganizacja wydarzeń.
or for example,
narodowych
they
w mieście.
participate in the organization of different events in the city.
Edukacja seniorów. To kursy
Education for
komputerowe,
seniors
szkolenia z
or
obsługi nowych
computer
technologii.
courses, trainings in new
Te działania
technologies,
pozwalają
and all these
rozwijać
activities
nowe
help us
umiejętności.
to develop new
Ostatni
skills.
rok,
The last
w
year,
ostatnim roku skupialiśmy się na
we
problemach
focused
z
on
zaburzeniami
people
pamięci, więc było
who
bardzo
had
dużo
problems with
warsztatów,
dementia.
treningów
We
tam
had lots
dla
of
osób powyżej
memory
65 roku
training
życia,
for people over
warsztaty
60.
śpiewu dla osób chorych na
We had
demencję, warsztaty dla
some singing
opiekunów. Weszliśmy tutaj we
workshops
współpracę z
also for
miastem
the
Greifswald
caretakers.
i
We entered in the partnership
wydrukowaliśmy
with
specjalną książeczkę Babcia Gabcia,
Greifswald. We
autorstwa
published a special
naszej
book
pani dyrektor
written
biblioteki.
by our librarian, the head of the library,
I
Jolanta
w
Miękus.
oparciu o jej
And according to her,
12-zwrotkowy wiersz,
basing on her poem and work
plastyczne,
and her
wydrukowaliśmy taką
artwork,
książeczkę.
we
Ta książeczka jest
published
doskonałym
this
pretekstem
city, and
do
it's a very
rozmowy o
nice
problemach z pamięcią u osób starszych.
prompt to talk
Towarzyszyła
about the
temu też
memory
kampania
with older
społeczna,
people.
plakaty,
There was also a
wystawy w
social
plenerze,
campaign, of course, some exhibitions
spotkania,
in open air,
rozmowy.
some
Także
meetings, conferences,
mam
talks.
wrażenie, że
So I have the
po tym,
impression that
czego
after
nauczyliśmy się na temat
what we have
demencji
learned about
w
dementia
ubiegłym roku,
last year,
mogę powiedzieć,
I can
że
say that
od 1 marca
from the
będziemy
first
mieli usługę adresowaną
March, we will have a
do
special
osób
service
starszych z zaburzeniami pamięci w
addressed
ramach
to
centrum
people
usług
with
społecznych,
problems with
polegającą
memory,
na konsultacji, na
and
przygotowywaniu rocznych
it
w
will
taki
help
sposób
the
warsztatowy, aktywny do
consult and
radzenia
help the
sobie z
families how to
zanikami
deal
pamięci
with this
osób,
problem
u osób najbliższych.
with our closest relatives.
Infrastruktura.
The infrastructure.
Poprawa infrastruktury miejskiej jest to dla nas
We
w mieście
improved
bardzo
the
istotne.
municipal
Bezpieczne
infrastructure.
chodniki,
It's
ławki.
very important to us. Safe
Muszę
pavements,
powiedzieć, że
benches.
teraz
I have
mamy
to say
taką
that
akcję
now we have an
malowania
action
ławek,
of painting the benches.
przyjaznych ławek. Nie chodzi o to,
There are
żeby wszystkie
friendly
ławki
benches, and
pomalować
of
w
course,
jakieś
it does not
nienędzne
mean that we
kolory.
should paint
Szkoda,
all
że
the
nie
benches in
zamieściłem tutaj w
strange
prezentacji
colors.
zdjęcia takiej ławki.
Unfortunately, I did not put any of these photos
Malujemy
in my slides.
ławki w sposób
So we paint
taki
them
szczególny, kolorowy.
in a
Przez-
very
te
special,
ławki są malowane
colorful
przez
way
różne grupy, również
by
grupy
different
senioralne,
groups of
osoby z
people, among
niepełnosprawnościami.
others
I te ławki
also
są w miejscach szczególnych,
seniors or
gminnych,
people with
gmin.
disabilities, and they are in
Gminie
different places
planujemy
in our
tych
municipality,
ławek,
not only
na
in
ten
the city,
moment
but also in rural
uruchomić około
areas.
12.
We want to have them 12,
Docelowo może to będzie i 30.
maybe
Przy czym
30
te
in the
ławki
future,
wyróżniają się
but they stand
tabliczką
out
informacyjną,
by an
gdzie
inscription,
jest
a
napisane,
board
nie
where it
jesteś
is
sam,
written,
nie jesteś
you
sam
are not
za mną.
alone, you can
Również tam
call.
jest, telefon
And there is a phone number given there
zaufania do osób
for
starszych.
older people.
Znajdują się tam również inne telefony,
There are also some
ale
other
ten telefon
phones,
tam
but
również
this
się
one is
znajduje.
also put
Jeżeli
there.
chodzi o transport publiczny,
When
ma
it
być
comes to public
bezpłatny,
transport, it's free of
dla wszystkich
charge
mieszkańców,
for all
a
the
szczególną usługę transportową,
inhabitants,
którą
and a
dedykujemy
special
osobom starszym i osobom z
service
niepełnosprawnościami
addressed to
jest,
elderly people with
samochód,
disabilities
który Państwo widzicie
is the
na
car that you
zdjęciu
can
i
see in
on
the
w terenie
photo.
gminy operuje 5 dni w tygodniu od godziny
It works
7 do
5 days
20, w piątki do
a week
22.
from 7 to 8 p.m.,
I nie
from
tylko
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And
celem
the aim is not only to
kursów jest
drive
lekarz czy też urząd,
the older
również
people to
potrzeby
the
duchowe.
city hall or to
I
the
zdarza się
doctor,
nam
but
tak,
there are also
że
some spiritual needs.
ułatwiamy osobom
It
starszym,
happens that
zwłaszcza
we
z obszarów
enable
wiejskich,
older people from, especially
osobom
from
chorym
rural
udział w
areas or
koncercie czy w
elderly,
spotkaniu
we
w
enable them to take part
piątek,
in a
po
concert
południu,
or in a special
czy
meeting
wieczorem.
or in some during some
Najczęściej
evenings.
ten transport
But
wykorzystywany
mostly
jest
this
przez
transport is used
osoby starsze w celu dojazdu
to
na
travel
do
to
Goleniów.
rehabilitation
On jest dostosowany do przewozu osób na wózkach.
for elderly people, and it is also adapted to wheelchairs.
Infrastruktura to przede wszystkim centrum aktywności
The
lokalnej,
senior
taka
citizen
baza
friendly
aktywności
infrastructure
osób
is
starszych,
mostly
Goleniowskiego kultury,
the local
rampa
activity
kultura
center,
miejska i powiatowa biblioteka
Goleniów Cultural
publiczna,
Center, Rampa Kultura, our
przedszkole
public
gminne,
library,
środowiskowe,
the private kindergarten,
gdzie zmieści się klub Integracja.
where we have the
Mamy
integration
również
club.
wypożyczalnię sprzętu
We also have the rental
rehabilitacyjnego,
of rehabilitation
który
equipment
wypożyczamy
that we rent
nieodpłatnie, przy
for
czym,
free.
jeżeli sprzęt jest wart powyżej 1500 zł,
But if the equipment is worth over
wtedy ta
1,500,
odpłatność wynosi 20 zł miesięcznie.
then there is
Aktywizacja
a
zawodowa.
quote,
Ostatnio,
charge, a fee of 20 zlotys
coraz
per
więcej
month, which
seniorów
is
zgłasza
like
się do
4
nas z
euros.
zapytaniem
More and more
poprzez
seniors
media
come
społecznościowe.
with a change. They get to
Czy nie
us
moglibyśmy
through
pomóc im znalezieniu
social media.
Wiedzą
They
o tym,
ask
że
us for
mamy
help in finding a job.
biuro
They
kariery,
know
takie
that
nas
we have a
pośrednie dla
special
osób nieletnich,
kind of
po
job
16
placement for
lat.
the
Do
youngsters,
24 roku życia można korzystać z tej
for
usługi.
people between 16
Mamy
and
podpisane
24.
umowy z
We have
firmami,
special contracts with
internationalnymi
companies,
firmami,
for different companies,
są zainteresowane
a dozen of them that are
współpracą z
interested
firmami
in
młodymi.
cooperation with the
I
young.
pojawiły się komunikaty,
And then we got some
typu, czy nie
messages.
moglibyście państwo nam pomóc?
Why shouldn't we
pierwsze osoby
help also some older
w
people?
ramach tej
And the
usługi
first people
podjęły już pracę.
who were interested
Myślę,
in
że
this
to jest
service, they have already started their job. I
usługa,
think that that's a place that could be
według
developed,
naszych szacunków
a
około
survey that has a
10-15%
lot to do in the future, because according to our
seniorów
diagnosis,
mogłoby być potencjalnie tych
more or
aktywnych
less
seniorów, mogłoby
60%
być,
of the seniors could be
wysoko
active
funkcjonujących, mogłyby
because
być
they are highly
zainteresowane,
functioning and they
podjęciem
might be
zatrudnienia.
interested in getting a job.
Dialog społeczny jest dla nas szalenie
The
istotny.
social dialogue is a very
Nic
important
o
thing.
seniorach bez seniorów.
We cannot say anything about the seniors without
Aktualnie
them
w
being
Goleniewie
implied.
funkcjonuje już
At the
trzecia
moment, currently, we have the
kadencja
third
Rada
term of
Seniorów
the Senior
i
Citizen
ona
Council
odgrywa
in
kluczową
Goleniów,
rolę w
and it has a
procesie
key role in the
decyzyjnym.
process of
Są inicjatorami
deciding.
debat,
They initiate
organizowali
debates, they
spacery
organize
takie,
some special walks
miejskie, gdzie
in the
wskazywali na różne
city where they
niedogodności,
could show us
dla osób
directly what
starszych.
are
Czasami
the
wystarczy przyciąć
places
gałąź, powiesić litery na jakiejś
of
tablicy,
some kind of danger.
tak
Maybe,
aby
for
to
example,
było
a
łatwiej
branch was in the wrong
przeczytane,
place, or a
czytelne dla
bench could be
osób
placed in a different
starszych.
way. What could help the older people, the older residents?
No, seniorzy mają również swoje święto. Raz
And
do
of course,
roku
they have their
organizowane
Seniors
jest
Day. Once a
Goleniów
year,
Dzień
we organize the
Seniora.
Goleniów
To
Seniors
jest
Day.
jedna, z większych takich
It's one of the
prestiżowych dla
bigger, prestigious
seniorów,
events for the
imprez,
seniors
wydarzeń.
of our
Przyznają
municipality.
swoje statuetki,
They
przyjaciół
get
osób
the
starszych,
special awards,
przyjaciel
who are the friends of the seniors in
firma
our
przyjazna
municipality.
osobom
They give it to
starszym.
some companies who are senior friendly, etc.
Tak jak
Debates,
powiedziałem, nic o seniorach bez
as I have
seniorów,
already
więc
mentioned, nothing
aktywnie
to
biorą
be
udział osoby starsze
decided about
we
the
wszystkich
seniors
debatach,
without them.
zwłaszcza
So
w
the
tych
seniors
debatach,
are
kiedy
invited to take part in
określamy
debates,
zmiany do
especially
programu usług
when it
społecznych.
comes to the changes in our
29
community
stycznia
services.
będziemy po
At
raz
the
czwarty
moment, until the
aktualizować nasz
29th
program usług
of
społecznych.
January, we are
I
updating our
na
program
kształt
of
tego
community
programu
service, and according to
w głównej
this
mierze mają
and the
również
shape of this
osoby
program
starsze i
is
organizacje
highly influenced by
seniorowe.
the seniors from different organizations.
Dziękuję za
Thank you
uwagę.
very much for your attention,
Pozdrawiam z
and
Goleniów.
all the best from Goleniów.
Dziękujemy, panie dyrektorze, za
Thank you very much, Director, for this particularly broad scope that helped us understand different aspects of these activities. It's difficult to sum up in one or two phrases, of course, because there are too many types from these very help, support-oriented for the seniors in need, but also the elements that we could hear from you, how these things are done in Goleniów, are particularly inspiring for us. That's why this presentation, as we said, will be available on our local development forum website, so that we can use one of these greatest potentials that the local governments have, because as the director said in the beginning, that he's inspired by the activities in Gdańsk and Poznań, as described before, for example, by the practices in Poznań. So now we have learned how it looks from the perspective of middle-sized towns. So we cannot exclude a very important element, but of course there are many, many more. But let me just mention one tendency, one trend that we've been mentioning since the very beginning by Director Porawski, by other speakers, Professor Błędowski, among others, the challenges of the labor market. You know it from your own experience, and it's good to know that you react actively to the needs voiced by the seniors. So So this is this co-creation policy in practice, as Ms. Rafoss said before. But many of these inspirations drawn from individual perspectives. For example, these anniversary meetings showing this interpersonal bonds that are being built. So if we have this perspective, it would be very good then to have a look at another example from the city of Gdańsk mentioned before, the forms of senior resident activities, chosen forms of senior resident activities from Gdańsk, Ms. Gabriela Dudziak, who is the representative of for seniors of the mayor of Gdańsk, with regard to the information center and animation, so integration and animation of the seniors. Ms. Gabriela, are you there?
Tak, jestem.
Okay, we can hear you very well, so the floor is yours.
Dzień dobry Państwu, jest mi niezmiernie miło. Ja właśnie
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me.
Również uruchomić prezentację.
I'll do my best to share the presentation with you, and it will be, I'll be very glad.
Prezentację. Mamy
We
prezentację.
can hear it. We can see the presentation now.
Wyciszyła pani mikrofon teraz w trakcie. Jakby
I'm
mogła
afraid
pani-
you have turned off the microphone.
Tutaj zerkam, bo mam ekran podglądowy. Nie, prezentacja jest OK. Tak. Musi pani w mikrofon. Bo słyszeliśmy panią, a teraz pani nie słyszymy. Tam na górze powinna pojawić się tabelka. Dzisiaj mamy dzień różnych.
Mamy dzień różnych
już się
niespodzianek,
słyszę.
dlatego
Yes,
że
we have some technological surprises today.
Właśnie wycisza mi się mikrofon.
I don't know why. If I share the screen,
Udostępnić z dźwiękiem. Tam jest taka funkcja
I
udostępnić.
think you have to share with the sound, include the sound in the sharing.
Mam tylko udostępnij.
I only have the share option.
W momencie udostępnienia jest
Yes, that's the thing.
udostępnić z dźwiękiem.
You should have the option to share with the sound.
Bo teraz znowu pani nie słyszy.
Right now,
O,
Bardzo,
teraz panią
bardzo-
słyszymy.
Tak, ale pewnie Państwo nie widzicie.
Teraz, znaczy teraz panią słyszymy i widzimy.
yes, now we hear you and see you, but we can't see your screen.
Właśnie udostępnij, mam tylko ekran, a nie mam udostępnij z dźwiękiem.
I don't
Zaraz,
seem to have this option,
zaraz
unfortunately.
tutaj przechodzimy.
Just a second.
Udostępniaj również system udostępnij z dźwiękiem. Powinno to, odklikałam, więc powinno
Let
to
it,
być.
so it should be
Więc
working now.
spróbujemy.
Próbujemy, słyszymy panią teraz.
Yes, we hear you very well.
Wszystko.
Teraz słyszymy, jeszcze nie widzimy prezentacji, ale słyszymy panią cały
The
czas i
sound
widzimy.
works fine.
Pogodny uśmiech to jest dobre podejście.
Bardzo,
w takich
bardzo,
sytuacjach.
bardzo mi przykro, ponieważ nie mogę tego zrobić tak jak mi się
I
wyświetla.
don't know.
W tej chwili
To
zrobiłam
może my tu ze
udostępnij.
studia udostępnimy?
Well, we might share it from the studio, if you don't mind.
Udostępnij również dźwięk systemowy, mam to odklikane.
Now, I
więc,
seem to have
myślę,
turned on
że
the option to show sound, but
spróbujemy. A teraz, proszę Państwa,
let's check just
Teraz
once.
widzimy panią, słyszymy panią, jeszcze nie widzimy prezentacji.
Yes, we don't see the presentation
no
yet.
właśnie, a ja ją widzę, bo ją udostępniłam.
Tam
I
jest kwestia
teraz
jeszcze
strange.
ekranów.
kłopot.
Może jakbyśmy mogli iść, Krzysiek, jakbyś mógł jednak udostępnić
So
prezentację.
we'd like to, ask for some technical support and maybe share the
Bardzo
presentation
Państwa
from the studio.
przepraszam, ale
Um,
wydaje mi się, że
excuse me.
odkryłam wszystko, co mam tutaj, łącznie z
Seems I've done all I could.
systemowego, więc
Tak, na próbie było
Something,
dobrze.
something must be
tak,
wrong. We tried before.
dobrze,
Już widzimy
We rehearsed. Okay, now we see the presentation.
tak, jak najbardziej.
Tak.
Proszę Państwa, to tak jak powiedziałam, tym
Chciałbym,
bardziej
żeby
miło mi,
slajd.
że może jeszcze chwileczkę, tym bardziej miło mi, że Gdańsk został zaproszony.
So I'm
tym bardziej
all the more happy
zaproszony.
that we were
Mam w takim
invited,
towarzystwie. Chciałabym
listed
podziękować
among
wszystkim,
this,
którzy tutaj przede mną mieli
these great
możliwość
examples of senior
pokazania
policy. I'd like to thank all the
swoich
previous
dobrych
speakers
praktyk,
who
ale też
had the
codziennych
opportunity to
działań.
share their
Wiemy,
day-to-day
że
activities and their
ze
best practices,
szczególnego doświadczenia,
because I know that
jeśli
from
chodzi o
all our
efektywność
experience,
działań,
as far as the effects of the actions are concerned, especially with regard to the seniors, what is most important is the consistency and determination of these activities. Today, I only have a narrow group of examples to share with regard to senior activity and the activities we undertake to strengthen the communication of the seniors. How is it done in Gdańsk? Next slide, please. We're the city famous for freedom and solidarity. So what is most important for us that without any stigmatization, include all the social groups. So we want to provide a policy of inclusion and equality of opportunities. From the organizational perspective, our senior policy is carried out mostly by the departments of the City Hall. And the most important ones here is the Department of Social Development, where I have the pleasure to work, and the Municipal Family Support Center. These are the leading entities. What is particularly important for us, this is particularly important for us because we don't have a senior policy document as such yet, but all these activities are based on strategic and operational documents. The most important one is the Gdańsk Development Strategy 30+. The roadmap is based on the results of the studies that we managed after 5 years of work in 2012. This was a huge challenge for us, but also a vast amount of knowledge. Namely, it helped us on the basis of 1,500 questionnaires. We analyzed the quality of life of the seniors, and that's on this basis we managed to create this roadmap. And on the basis of these findings, we could engage in our activities. Right now, we're preparing the document that would collect both our potential and present the possible solutions. This will be the document related with the senior policy as such. Let me just share very briefly the demographic data regarding the residents of Gdańsk. This is the data from the end of December 2024. The number of registered residents, we almost have 500,000 inhabitants. But the real structure, the real number of residents is that we have more than 500,000, in fact, because we have lots of guests, for example, from Ukraine that also support our labor market. But they're also active in the social sphere. I have to say that we even have an international senior resident club in Gdańsk. This is just a fun fact. But the current situation is that in 2030, we will have a huge number of senior residents in the city. They will constitute 1/3 of our society. We already have districts in the city that are already in 2030 in this respect, with regard to the percentage of seniors living there. So as you can see, this is quite a significant share. How is it done in Gdańsk? We divided our spheres of activity into 4 thematic areas. The first is the general activity. The second, education. From education with about old age, but also in old age. The third, health and preventative care. And the fourth, connection, helping and supporting. A great challenge for us since the very beginning has been finding the right proportion. I sometimes refer to it as maintaining balance between the activities by the city that are aimed at activizing and supporting the activity of the seniors in a very broad horizon. But in practice, finding this balance between what is necessary and required, so the entire scope of support for the seniors. This does not mean that our attention has to be divided equally, half by half, but the pandemic showed us where the focus should be. And we need a certain shift with this respect. What are the areas that call for reaction more than others? Which are the problems that appear? because this is what will shape our local senior policies and the plan of activities. Ladies and gentlemen, because we were asked today to focus mostly on showing certain good practices in the activity area, not the entire program of senior policy in Gdańsk, I'd like to call your attention to the three general thoughts here. The first, which is absolutely priceless, this is community work. Here I would like to highlight that one of the most important currents that is our target and the topic of our discussions is being in dialogue with the representatives of seniors and their centers. For example, the Gdańsk Senior Resident Council, but also a huge potential that is represented by the informal clubs and senior circles. The second aspect is the activation, very broadly understood. And here I would like to highlight two aspects that we're proud of. That is two directions, one could say, that we consider that are absolutely justified. Firstly, the support by funds and financing, and a few words about this in a minute, but also the consistency, regularity of activities. That is the calendar of senior citizen events that we have already prepared and has become an everyday part of the life of seniors in Gdańsk, but also other generations. And the third leg of the tripod is information and communication. As the other speakers have already said, this element poses a great challenge because we cannot collaborate with these different circles. We can only initiate, we can provide the offer, but if we are not able to communicate effectively, to transmit this information, but also build this communication both ways, a part of these activities will be less effective and definitely will not bring the intended results. So I'd like to share just a few photos about the activity of the Senior Information and Animation Center, about the Gdańsk Senior website, the newsletter, the Senior Citizen newsletter, and the in-call hours. 2 words about the Gdańsk Council of Senior Citizens, but I have to add, as the director said, that together with Poznań, these are the 2 first senior resident councils that appeared in 2007 in Poznań and Gdańsk. So look at the way we have walked since then. At first, it was an expert body called in by the president, the mayor of Gdańsk. Then we even had 2 councils, a senior resident council that was the representation of the seniors. Right now, we only have the second one, which also has this advisory role as the initiative, provides consultations, the seniors have their meetings, they adopt their resolutions. And of course, the impressions are very often that their voice is not heard enough, is not loud enough, and there is a lot to be done. And of course, in the communication with the decision makers, they would like to have more influence. But the activity of the council is definitely very beneficial, very dynamic. And it's no secret that a collaboration with this body that represents both NGOs, senior-oriented NGOs, but also these informal groups I mentioned. And very often the initiatives that take place in the city, this collaboration is absolutely priceless and is more and more heard, included in many different activities, work performed by the city, not only in the form of resolutions, but also in a daily work, daily consultation in different commissions, colleges, chapters of different organizations. I also mentioned before the senior citizens clubs and circles as informal groups. In the city of Gdańsk, it's over 83 groups altogether that are often working in the culture centers in parishes, in the local district councils, and in many other institutions. Very often these are just friendly groups, people spending time together. Sometimes they are united by shared hobbies, interests. Sometimes they have certain ambitions and willingness and potential to participate in volunteer work or to initiate certain activities. What we are very happy about as a city is that we have managed to build a certain network of relations, of contacts, of collaboration. And these regular meetings, usually 3-4 times a year, we have a meeting, informative meetings with all the leaders. We also have had in the last years trainings for leaders to strengthen their competences and qualifications. And very soon we're about to start the Leader Academy. This is one of the results of our shared analysis, brainstorming, because very often leaders come across challenges they are not always able to overcome. So they need to be strengthened in terms of competences, new qualifications sometimes. It's particularly necessary. And I believe that our new project, our new idea that we want to introduce will be particularly important and will be very useful. And the second group will be new members. We're just after the elections at the end of last year, we've chosen the new group of senior residents in the council. So these new members of the council is very necessary to train them. What we also propose to the senior resident clubs and circles is the possibility to be actively engaged. What we wanted to enable by creating many years ago under the Gdańsk funds, the senior fund, a certain door, certain wicket to support these small informal groups with limited funds that help them carry out their daily activities and ideas. We have groups where the average age is significantly over 80, and we also have groups who are over 60 and have absolutely different interests, just as Professor Błędowski said. So sometimes one group needs a small financial injection just to be able to meet, to spend some time together, simply have a tea, piece of cake or fruit, while the other has ambitious ideas to carry out some interesting project for the local environment, or even undertake some general citywide initiatives. So as you can see here, our Gdańsk Senior Fund consists of mini grants for informal groups. This is 1,000 zlotys per initiative, but for NGOs, for projects, it's up to 9,000 zlotys. Since last year, we also have something what we had been fighting for. We wanted to create for a long time, because very often we have 140 initiatives and we can only finance 30 of them. And then it turns out that not all of these clubs and circles actually feel that they get any support from the city. So we managed to find both the formula and the funds to support their daily activities. And this is this symbolic, maybe 1,000 zlotys for tea or coffee, or for renting a space so that they can meet somewhere. It is one of the greater challenges in the city. As you can see, over 83 clubs and circles, it's quite a large group. So very often it is a problem in different parts of the city to find places which could be used free of charge by these groups. So this money will definitely be helpful. So from 2013 to 2024, we've had 2 editions every morning, every spring and autumn. We've had over 18,000 participants so far. And the second thing that is absolutely priceless in supporting the activity of the seniors And here, I want to speak about the calendar of recurring events for the activation of and integration of all these age groups and the presence of seniors, educating all the groups about the presence of seniors in our city space. Very often it is often said and noticed by the seniors themselves that they are perceived, they are seen when they are needed to help with the grandchildren, but their needs are not always perceived and clear for everyone. So we should all be educated how to support the seniors, how to respect their privacy, their free time, how to support them in their needs. This is particularly important. So the response that goes beyond the activity of these already functioning groups, third age universities. Right now we have, well, after the pandemic, we used to have over 14 of them, but since the pandemic, it's only about 6. But they work at universities, but also they work as associations. But apart from these groups, this is a huge challenge. 120,000 people who are over 60. This is a huge part of the society that would like to invite to use what we have offered for seniors, but also to co-create it, which is a huge challenge. And we hope that being in this public media space, encouraging different entities to include, to engage in more broader dialogue about the presence of seniors in daily reality, it will be helpful to meet this goal. And what is very helpful are these recurring events in the Gdańsk City Hall calendar. One of these, continued since 2012, is the senior picnic and parade, which appeared a bit later, and it was invented, the idea was invented by the seniors in mid-June usually, and the inspiration was the International Day of Dignity of the Elderly, which functions and generally regards all the groups whose dignity is undermined, who are weaker, but seniors are one of these groups. So the dignity of the elderly, of the senior residents, is particularly important on this day. It's a very nice event, actually 2 of them, and it's hugely popular by our residents. And it is an opportunity for those seniors who are not engaged in any group, in any circle, to participate. Another activity is that a number of competitions we have in Gdańsk with regard to different forms of activity, but the oldest one, I think, is the Active Seniors competition with 4 categories. But of course, active male and active female senior are the 2 main categories. It is a great opportunity for the city to honor those seniors who devote their own time to others. Since 2006, we have this tradition in Gdańsk to organize the municipal city senior citizens ball with the participation of even 1,000 seniors. Usually it's around 500, 600, of course, depending on the funds we have. This is a party that has been continued on since always, which is an opportunity to compensate for the activity of all those who were active. Only with it wasn't there during the pandemic, so it's possible to highlight everybody who deserves praise and recognition. What we managed to organize the senior weekend, senior resident days, and for some time being more aware than ever about the importance of education about seniors, especially among other age groups, we decided to introduce the events that take place throughout the whole month of October, giving the seniors the opportunity to participate in a number of events, both related to art, but also education, sports, recreation, and other areas of life. What is most important for us here is that the participants that there are huge groups of seniors participate in these events. But what cannot be overvalued is this co-creation of the offer that is included in these events. I want to mention two elements here. What is particularly important is the Festival of Labor and Activity for Seniors and the Maturity Gala, which is the finale of the Gdańsk Poetry Competition. Because in Gdańsk, since 2018, we have the center, labor center for seniors, which helps to provide, helps in the search for an employer, but also provides care for the senior residents in their search of work or employment. In our database right now, we have almost 5,000 seniors. Last year, we helped to find jobs for almost 600 of them, 600 seniors who were looking for employment. So the goal of the center, the challenge for the center, is to provide real quality and very diversified work and meeting the requirements, the needs of the seniors, because very often it goes beyond simple guarding or cleaning works. This is also a place which provides information and consultation on different enterprises, different activities in the field of culture and education. And one of the forms of promoting this place, this is the Festival of Work and Activity of the Seniors, which is a huge event. On one day, we have even 7,000 visitors, lots of attractions, but all the organizers, all people who organize such events know that both is art and culture, even celebrity part is the cherry on top, and it's immensely popular. And these attractive things provide a great opportunity, a great bait to transmit a lot of important information from the family support center and social assistance centers in the city. Two things here about this initiative, which for us is a great indicator that it is never too late to look for talents. For us, among us, these talents have been channeled, especially towards poetry. In the beginning of each year, we organize a poetry competition for seniors. We have a chapter, a jury that analyzes these poems. We have great specialists sitting on a jury, and 7 top poems that are chosen. There is no single winner. All the 7 are treated as equals with regard, in collaboration with Philharmonic, are featured in a gala concert. So first the music is composed, and then, as I said, as a cherry on top, we have these poems. I'm unfortunately unable to show you the video, I'm afraid. Unless, yes, please. Yes, unfortunately, we can't play the video here. Well, maybe there are 2 minutes in the end that I can share it from my computer. But if I may skip to the next point now, I'd like to say just very briefly, speak very briefly about the activities that are of immense importance with regard to building this network of exchanging information, supporting the animation of the seniors. With this regard, in August 2023, we found a place to build the center, the Senior Information Animation Center. We feel that we haven't done everything yet. This is a place that will be aimed at coordinating all the activities by the city addressed to senior residents, but also creating a center, a network to exchange information and manage the information in the most effective way. I'm sure also in your cases, you have come across this problem.
z taką informacją zwrotną,
Well,
że
this
czasami
feedback
jest tej informacji
that
za
very
dużo
often there
i
is
nie
too much
umiemy po
information,
prostu właściwie
too
z tego
scattered,
korzystać. Więc wcale
and we're not
nie
able to use
brak
it
oferty,
properly. So not
albo brak
the
informacji
lack
o
of offer
ofercie,
or lack of
albo
information about the offer is a
nieumiejętność
problem,
wybrania
but the inability to choose the right
stanowi
information might be
kluczową
the
jakby
problem.
barierę w korzystaniu
This might
z
sometimes
przygotowywanych
be
Proszę
the key
Państwa,
barrier.
dla nas istotne jest również
For
to,
us,
aby
it is also
animować pewne
important to
działania,
animate certain
żeby
activities,
zmapować to, co się
to
dzieje w
map
mieście,
out what
żeby
is
pewnych
happening
rzeczy nie powielać, nie
in the city,
proponować
not
rzeczy,
to
na których
overlap certain
być
activities,
może
not
nie
to
ma
plan
chętnych.
things
I to
for which
jest
there will be not
wyzwanie
many
na
people
kolejny
interested.
czas
And this is
dla
one of
nas,
the
dlatego
challenges
że
for us
w
in the
tej
future.
chwili, budując ten
Because right
punkt
now,
informacyjny,
building this
udało nam
information
się
point, we have
zainicjować dyżury cyfrowe,
managed to
co jest
initiate
niezmiernie ważne,
digital
dlatego że
um,
bardziej niż warsztaty
digital
komputerowe
duty hours,
nasi
because
seniorzy
it is more
preferują
important for
dyżury
us
cyfrowe, na których jeden do jeden
than
po prostu
computer
znajdują
workshops,
pomoc
because
w
our seniors prefer this form
tych
to be able to
kwestiach i
contact
trudnościach,
one-on-one
które pojawiają się
digitally and to
korzystaniu ze
find support
smartfonów,
in the
tabletów czy
difficulties, for
komputerów.
example, using
Znaleźliśmy to
smartphones
miejsce, tu proszę o
or
kolejny
computers.
slajd, przy okazji
So we found this
stworzenia Centrum
place
Dolna Brama.
when we're creating
Jeśli
the
mogę
Dolna
poprosić
Brama
kolejny
Center.
slajd. Proszę Państwa, jest to
Kolejny
szczególne.
slajd.
Dziękuję pięknie. Jeżeli mogłabym Państwu tutaj to przybliżyć, to
let me
jest
just
to szczególne miejsce.
explain what kind of special place it is. It's a place that is open for all the activists, all the people who want to do something for others and haven't found a place open enough, friendly enough, so that they could use it free of charge. Here we have conference rooms, workshop rooms, a kitchen/cafe, a place, courtyard that could be used in the summer, particularly in the summer. And of course, apart from all the Center for Information and Activation of the Seniors, we also have the Veteran Center and Patriotic Education Center. And we also have 13 veteran organizations that use the 5 rooms without any problems or conflicts, as in some form of sharing, or so just to speak more, they share this space so that all of them can use it absolutely free of charge.
Pani dyrektor, będziemy musieli zmierzać ku końcowi już.
Tak, właśnie
Patrzę na
kończę.
czas.
Yes, we're about to finish. The digital support point has been already mentioned. We also have sports activities, boccia, intergenerations, cross boccia.
To proszę Państwa uruchomienie portalu
And
senioralnego.
we have created the senior resident portal of the Gdańsk city. We also have a browser for offers, which can be used. Also, there's an app that can be downloaded, which the senior can use to reach the intended place. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope there will be many more opportunities to meet and talk. As you have probably noticed, there are so many things that we would like to share than the time we have for them. So I would really like to invite you from the bottom of my heart to Gdańsk and to collaborate with us. It would be a great pleasure for us to learn from you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you and to our friends from Norway. Tusen tak.
Thank you for such a great sharing about what Gdańsk is doing. There are so many activities, but for many other cities, it can be a good inspiration. There is a whole range of what can be adapted to our own conditions and what we can take advantage of. As we have heard, there are cities that take advantage of the experience from Gdańsk and Poznań, and I think it's a very valuable thing that creates the sense of our forum, why our work does matter, and how can we inspire others. We have overpassed our deadline, the time, because My director says that we need to be very disciplined when it comes to time and the organization, but we have the feeling of missing some other things. Director Zdańska has said that she would like to say some other things, and we know that she has a lot of things to share, but maybe this is another reason to visit Gdańsk, to get interested in their initiatives. And now I would like just to ask for a short summary of the seminar. Andrzej Porawski, our executive director from Association of Polish Cities. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important is the exchange of experiences. From our practice, we know that the best we learn one from another, much more than during some conferences or trainings, even of the best theoretical speakers. So thank you very much for all those good practices and examples that were shared and showed today. Many of them can be additionally seen while visiting the websites of the cities, because as we have learned throughout those presentations, some of the cities or organizations have special websites for seniors. But I think that another seminar regarding the senior policy will take place or will have a different context, because we can see, looking at what happens in our cities, that from the point of view of the seniors, we'll have to shape our communal services policy. This is also from their perspective that we will have to construct the housing policy, the price policy. Some senior cards give some preferences to the older citizens in cities, but in some additional services, it does not happen. It usually concerns the basic services. The policy of employing those people. This is also something that we have to restructurize, because this border of what is the age of being older or not should not be a barrier. We should be more open for new possibilities for such people as me, for example. Thank you very much for this seminar, and I would like to give my special thanks for the head of the Poznań City Hall, because this is how I learned that in Poznań that I have a senior card here. I will definitely take use of it. I would like to invite you for our next meetings. Goodbye. Thank you very much. I would just like to technically add something. On the website, on the chat of our meeting, there is the link for the evaluation questionnaire. Please open this link and evaluate it, fill it, because we are really looking forward for your feedback. We'd like to improve our seminar, so please give us those few minutes of your attention to help us in our evaluation. But I would also like to thank our Norwegian partners that helped us in preparation of this seminar. I would like to thank to the Association of Polish Cities that you can't see because they are from the different side of the cameras and screens, and they helped us organizing today's meeting. Special thanks for this translation, because without their work, we wouldn't be able to communicate with our partners from Norway. Thank you, everyone, and see you the next seminar within the Forum of Local Development. Thank you very much.